Good day, listeners. Today we have Ian Kenneth Brown in one of his lovely buildings over in Golden Bay. Ian, I know you as a poet and a storyteller and a clown and a plethora of wonderful things. Would you care to, for people who don't know you and your work, would you care to introduce yourself and the work you do?
Yeah, I'd like to do that. And I think I get to me via just a piece of poetry.
Yeah, cool.
That poetry to begin. So I've got a piece, and this is a poem that is called a prayer. And so I bless this space between us, in the John Donahue kind of, to bless this space in between us. The prayer. I want to pray with you. I want to sit on the earth in silence. I want to say nothing to you. I want our stillness to have the power of plate tectonics. Slowly we will collide and we will drive into one another. I want your every breath to be self-aware. I want to know you in your blackness. I want to know the emptiness in your mind. I want the steady silence to creep around us like a night cloud. A silver slither of moon, sharp edges of the clouds. I want to know the beating of your heart in the rhythm of this ritual. I want our eyes to momentarily meet before free-falling from here. I want to understand essence. I want to understand essential. I want to understand infinite. I want to understand illusion. I want to enter into this stillness with you. I want to understand the fibers of this fabric with the certainty of my being. I want to close my eyes and have vision. I want to celebrate stillness. I want to know that there is no secret, and there is no meaning, and there is no now. I want the space between us to be the only space. The space between two worlds. As the event gathers together, the anticipation, the stillness, the energy will vibrate so deeply. The growl of thunder's belly, the tremble of bass, the waiting will be driven on the great sigh of together. Soon we will sit together on the earth. And we will find the words from within us for the prayer. It is a grave and certain prayer, like black footsteps in the night. It is a sure and well-worn prayer, like the pathway that those footsteps fall upon. Let this prayer rise up to the silver-lined clouds. Let the prayer's gentle illumination be our only light. We will sit together on the earth soon. The prayer has been spoken.
Wonderful. And that's a piece that you've written yourself?
Yeah. That's something that arrived in Pisac, in the little town in Peru. And followed a night voyage, a journey into soul, a journey into some sense of sort of scrabbling, a searching, a looking, which is something of me, of an introduction to me, and some piece of my curiosity, my innate child seems to stay with me. It seemed to carry me from a place in St. Asaph on the North Wales coast, Cymraeg, and my mum and my dada, you know, they were in industrial 1960s, 1970s Britain, and they found a little place in the suburb, or I don't know what I want to call it, the suburb. There's definitely some rough corners, and I grew up in that kind of a rough environment, and this piece of, like, an essence, if you like, what I'd come to talk about as inspiration in something. We could probably hold a podcast
of inspiration.
About
good.
Inspiration, which is something that's there for me. There's, but this roughness on the outside, I think, helped to create some kind of shield, some kind of protection, some kind of inner piece into the body to hold this golden thing, the seed, that it took time to gestate and it took time to grow. And the physical body was growing and the mind was growing, but also this deeper seed, which I started to attend to. And that's, you know, I suppose by introduction to self, there's a process of, you know, some 50 years of maturation. And as I sort of, my introduction there would be to say that I'm a family man. I'm ensconced, I'm stoked, and I'm loved in a space and held on land and with family. And so that it doesn't, well, maybe it does, and maybe there's definition in it. But there's definitely something about, like, awakening and coming into something new. So yeah, there's a piece. There's just a little piece of where I'm coming from, and I hope it's a bit vague, because I don't think it's fitting for myself to be categorized. Yeah. Particularly by me. So yeah, I'm 55 years old. I'm kind of 6 foot tall. I've got some tools there that can kind of help me.
And have you always had that kind of creative soul, like from a kid? Have you always done and made and explored?
I think we can look back. I think many of us could look back and say, I had this kind of leaning towards something, but it didn't seem to be creative. It seemed to be in a dance with the infinite. There was this core piece for myself that I remember being in a sandpit when I was 5 years old, and there's a beautiful red brick wall around the sandpits. This is when, like, playgrounds weren't made out of rubber, right? No plastic. This red brick sand thing. This big sandpit, and I was sitting in the sandpit, and I was having dialogue with myself, and the dialogue said, "You're eternal." And in that, there's this piece that, it was that great spirit, or was that me? Was that me, or was that great? And there was this dance in between, and I kind of accepted that. Yeah. It seemed to be more significant than me working on the sandcastle that I was working on. You know, I could say it was about the creative process, and it is. Yeah. But there's this other piece that felt like it was being informed by my relationship to spirit.
And it's that kind of. And this is more of a question than a statement. Is it that kind of inward journeying, that searching, the psychonaut that's coming out in play and in the creations and things? Do you think, or?
That's a good question.
Sorry, that wasn't planned.
It's kind of middle wicket. So go on with the bales. So let me get this. Is this informed by? Is this journey that I'm on today informed by the experience that I had there in childhood?
I think, like, are all the creative things that you work with, they're informed by that inner journey, that thinking, that kind of wanting to understand the infinite? And
yeah, I'd like to take that with me. I'd like to curate the question, because there's a piece that, like, the question just brings me closer, like, now into the moment where I'm like, oh, maybe that is the thing. And there's a curiosity. I just want to kind of, like, come back to that piece. And the curiosity has a different texture from doubt. So let's use doubt and curiosity as kind of something, whereas the weight of those two kind of pieces, doubt will often is a way of comprehension, and doubt will be heavy. It's by a gravity. It's drawing me into a spiral of I'm not sure. I'm not on safe ground. I don't know. And then there's this curiosity, which by its weight and by the way that we hold it inside, it's calling me to something else. It's calling me to this, like the birds in the nest. It's calling me to the song and the breeze, because it's alive. And I'm curious about that crux of life and death. And only when I reached a certain place in my own evolution that I felt strong enough to tentatively put my feet out, onto the thin ice. Maybe to quote Pink Floyd here, if you should go skating on the thin ice of modern life, don't be surprised when a crack in the ice appears under your feet, right? So there's this piece for me where I realized I've got to go out there. I've got to go out into the world, and I've got to take the gifts or the energies that I'm carrying, and I'm going to test the ice as I'm going out there, because I've got to find out if it's going to hold me. Is it going to hold the cargo? And there was a definite rite of passage. There was a definite crossroads. There was something that defined me, something that broke me. And that something had to be about life and death. It doesn't come as a single piece.
Yeah. So what I'm reading from that is that the things you do are the path to that understanding.
I think sometimes they could be the snakeskin that I leave behind, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so it shows that I've done my due diligence and I've processed the piece. So some of it is raw and in the moment, and it's a yearning for a future. And some of the work that I create is a gratituding to the past that I've come from. So let's flip for a second from poetry into story, because a good story, right, for me, is one that I've got the lines in my face. I've got the chops, right? I've got the chops to drop that, and it's live and it's real. And it's palpable around the fire. The energy is you can't forge that, right? And I love the idea of forging here, right? Because we've got fakery and forgery, but we've got the real deal in the forge, right? It's where it gets burned up, and then there's this fire in the center, So there's this attention to the magic of the piece. There's an attention to the magic of the piece, that we let it be as a conduit with experience, as a vessel that carries the necessary cracks of authenticity. Right? So grab that thing and say, that's the thing I'll wrestle with. How can I stand in front of an assembly, or how can I stand or sit on the bones of my ass around a wet fire and say, I've got something that wants to come through. It's a little bird in a nest that wants to sing for the first time. So I'm going to let it, and I'm going to ask first. And this is something like with maturity that there's a piece, for my children, that I want to reach out for a moment and recognize that my children don't have the capacity yet to ask for permission. Okay. And by having them in my presence, I realized I wasn't asking for permission in many situations. So I have some teachers with me, but also there's this kind of concerted experience. The nuance is then I curate that experience, and then I pass it back to them, and they get a chance to use it as a stepping stone to fully embodied, mature, healthy, responsible relationing as a healthy human being that looks outwards and says, I respect I see your capacity to hold spiritual space, and I want to acknowledge that before I begin. So I ask. It's a very beautiful kind of technology. Please, can I?
Yes.
Can I tell a story? Could I sing you a song? Can I? And those things for me, I think they are part of culture.
And
go on.
You talked about your laying the path in some ways for your own children, but what was your journey into it? How did you become doing the storytelling and writing and stuff? What was from little Ian who
what jumps into my walker right now is walking back from Sunday school when I was probably about 6,
right,
and there was a young girl who's 14 or 15, was elder, and she would walk back up the road with us to drop us off at our house, and she would tell stories to us.
Right.
And she would just invent them.
Great.
And me and my sister were like, "You can do that?" And we listened to these stories about, like, do you remember Smarties?
Yes.
She had pop guns that would fire Smarties, and she had, like, the baddies, like they were called vampires, and then and you'd get your pop gun, Smartie gun, and and then they'd live in a castle and we'd be in the story. She'd say, "Oh, and there was this little boy called Ian," and it's so enlivening to be offered a mythology or a story, however simple, that you get a chance to see yourself, to look with your own waking consciousness. I'm not talking about my eyes.
No.
I'm talking about some eye that is within that's creating visual images, and it creates a center. The world tree becomes somewhere else, and it's mystically kind of got up out of my bedroom, out of the middle of my house, and it's taken up roots in a different person, and the person was the storyteller.
Yeah.
And so she became my world tree in that, and I thank her today. I thank you for reminding me, bringing me back together again. Yeah.
Did you ever wonder what happened to this person? Do you think they're still telling stories, or it's
no?
I
don't. I think that the seed fell on me, and it found, like, I go back to a piece in the Bible, which was, some seeds get thrown out, and some fall on the dry land, and some fall on the pathway, and some pop up at the edge of the verge. And here's the verge again. The verge for me was this kind of place in between places, which story speaks to.
Definitely.
So this edge, this boundary, that one of the greatest parable teachers, one of the greatest storytellers was Jesus. And in that, there's this experience for me that later on in my life, because I'd received a whole heap of curious cautionary cynicism around a relationship with an amazing storyteller. It's like, right, still want to kind of kick that one out because it's a really good one, and I want to get to know some of, how do you do parables? This is so clever technology. You tell a story about mustard seeds or about wine and skins, right? So can I just drop the skins and the wine, because this came up recently for me. There's the wine skin, right? And I brew mead. I brew honey mead. And I'd gone in and I'd looked and I'd seen that the mead was it had some kind of like discoloration on the top. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll go save it. So I pour it into a clean bucket, scrape off all of the bits on the top, the kind of fluffy, moldy bit, and scrape that off. It's the same with cheese. You'll be fine. And then I kind of put it in like that and put the top on. And here you go. That night, I went back and I pick up a book, and it's like in the opening pages, there was a quote of I'm trying to remember if it was Mark or something. It's in the Gospel, and it says something about the idea of thou shalt not. put the old wine into new skins,
Right.
or the new wine into old skins, because it will spoil. Right?
Yeah.
So get this. I went and then did due diligence. I scratched my head. What's that about? It's talking about age. It's talking about the things of youth belong to the things of youth. The things of the elder belongs to the space of the elder, and the two shouldn't get mixed up. Because if I try and put elder work into the youth, it doesn't land well. It spoils the experience. And if we try and put, and I sound like I'm preaching here, but I'm not, brother. I'm trying to just hold that space, which is, this really speaks to my times.
Yeah.
Where the cult of youth has exploded into like, oh, we'll eternally live forever as children, and we won't have the responsibilities. That's an interesting paradigm that is being played out. And then so too, there'll be a return swing when we look at how life balances itself out, and we'll find that the elders will say, well, these are the things of the elders. And there will be, there's elder stuff. And there'll be this interesting piece that, can we bridge the spaces through from our innate elder's child? And there's humor in this, right? There's humor in it. So I got that. I think that's landing for me, and I know that at the moment I'm not a big enough container to hold all those ramifications. But I'm grateful for this lady, the storyteller, who threw seeds out. And I just pecked one, and I swallowed it down whole, and I became impregnated with a burning, yeah.
We talked briefly there about humour. And the first time I met you, you introduced yourself as Laughing Dog. Yeah. Where does that name come from, and what does a dog mean to you?
Thank you. So Verity, she's a lady in North Ireland, and she was part of a Druid grove, and I was chatting to her on her mum's sofa and the Wolf Shed, this beautiful space that they hold out there called the Grove of the Summer Stars, and it's related to a Druid group called Obod, which is the Order of Bards, Oates and Druids. I'd just come from Coromandel, and I'd sat with Shining Crystal and her husband. Was it Standing Bear? I think it was Standing Bear. So they trained in the Lakota tradition of holding a nipi. And I was just like, wow, I'll try that. And my sister, who's, a dear friend, sister, that kind, she said, hey, let's go to this, we had to grab our togs and our towel, barefoot, we ran across this field where they were kind of already gone into the lodge. Hey, we're sorry we're late. It's okay, you can come in, and the NEP opens, and we reverently come into the space, and I put my head on the ground. And that's it. That's that piece. And as I go over the threshold, Standing Bear says, Talking Bear. And I said, and I sat down and I just started to laugh. And I laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. And the lady who'd come in, she'd heard him also refer to me as Talking Bear. And he just knew me.
Yeah.
He'd sat in a space with me before. It was a karmic kind of dance through lives for him to initiate me once again into an old healthy way of looking after the body. It was no fuss. He was not trying to do woo-woo for me. It's just get in there, sweat, your body will feel good, get yourself back. Jump in the cold stream and so he's just that piece, And as I left, I said, I've got this talk, I've got a name. I recognize that. And I thought, this is wonderful. I always wanted a nickname. You know, when I was 6, 7 years old, there was Bazza, there was Gaza, there was Staz, there was, you know, the dude that was like, had a really funky name that was called Ashi or something like that. And they're really derivatives of family names. But then every now and then you'd get someone who's called like the Wings or like, you know, Kiddo. And you kind of go like, how did they get such a cool nickname? I wanted a nickname. And because I looked.
Yeah.
And when I looked, I chased the experience away. And at some point, age and entropy slowed down, and then I gave in. And when I gave in, it came in. I received. So I go back to the Grove on the sofa, and I'm still sat with Verity, and I'm just saying to Verity, hey, I just came from the Sweat Lodge, and they gave me a name. They called me Talking Bear. I said, I don't want to tell many people about this because it's like, I may scare it away again, and it's just arrived, and it means something to me. And she said, that's weird, you're not a talking bear, you're a laughing dog. And I said, that's really interesting, because that hat fits too.
Yeah.
And when I took that, I realized that there's some sense of necessity to hold duality. As a holder of a space inside that is plural, and in that these two pieces feel much more comfortable in being held in a balance of, say, summer and winter, of light and dark, of you know, justice and injustice, all of these dualities. And I said, oh, I am that, so I'm going to take both names.
Nice.
And with one of them I danced into the light and said, hey everybody, I'm Laughing Dog, hey everybody, I'm Laughing Dog, hey everybody, I'm Laughing Dog. So there's Talking Bear.
Yeah.
Right, so Laughing Dog is about my Celtic relationship with the zoomorphic carvings of the Pict, who forged this deep bond with a particular animal on our planet. And for me, from a karmic perspective, or from a life cycle perspective of, we've all emerged from the earth, and we've gone through layer after layer after layer of our intelligence, reaching a point where we could possibly transform into the human experience. One of the last places that you would find before you stepped into the human body was a dog. And the absolute bond that's, wow, I still, every time I pat a dog, I'm like, you really made the effort to step out of your wolf costume, and thank you for showing us that an evolutionary process can happen. And in that, I'm like crazy passionate about dogs, so I got my body tattooed with them. I started to collect stories about dogs, and that happened in my youth, and it's continuing to happen today. When another dog story, you know, tell me this other dog story. And often we find that in dog stories you got this humorous piece. The dogs don't always. Shall I tell you a story about a dog?
If you feel that would be good, yes.
Yeah, I do. So this is once upon a time, a long time ago. There's this piece, and it's from the islands. I'm just going to say it's from the islands because I don't know its correct genealogy. And as a curator of story, it's healthy to know the genealogy, but not always something that is of too much information.
Yep.
We're good. I'll begin. Once upon a time, there was an island in the Pacific, and it was the island of the dogs. But there was the king of the dogs, and the king of the dogs had his own little atoll, right? And right in the middle of the atoll was this beautiful fatty. So, you know, it had this house that was carved like a marae, you know, so welcoming, you know. It probably had large dog bones, as you entered the gates of this compound, you know. And inside the compound, there was another little fatty. Because I didn't tell you that every year, around summer solstice, the king of the dogs called all of the dogs from all of the small islands around, and they had to bring their walkers, and the little dogs, it's just like this, and they paddled their walkers, and they went over to the king of the dogs. And you know why? Because the king of the dogs was just. He was just. And did I tell you he's a Jack Russell?
No.
You got to know that the king of the dogs is a Jack Russell. The king of the dogs is a Jack Russell. Right? And so they're all arriving now. You can see them. They're slowly coming from the islands. And there's going to be a big bow wow. It's going to go off, right? But these dogs are respectful to the king of the dogs. What are they going to do? When they arrive, like the Japanese tradition of we take our shoes off before we enter the house, the dogs would take their tails off. And they would go to the small fatty. It was called the tail house. And there would be a hook. And it had the names, there's Chihuahua, there's Labrador, there's Retriever, there's the chocolate brown, the chocolate lab, and they would all place their tails on the hooks, and then they would come solemnly into the space, and then the bow wow started, the big tables of food, and there was one of they were juggling, one was on a unicycle, and this is, like, wow, it's a big bow wow's happening. It would be going on, the food would get passed around, plates and plates of it, and then there was a bell, ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling, and Jack Russell, woof, and everybody got real quiet in there. And then Jack Russell would say, I am ready to proclaim justice. Bring any complaints to me that you've had in the village. My dog has just walked into space.
He's not complaining. She's not complaining.
Bring all of your problems to me right now. Any complaints. So of course the border collie first, she steps up and she says, the boxer dog, she's been pissing on my favorite tree. And the whole room gasps. And Jack Russell says, oh, Boxer, is this true? And Boxer kind of, maybe a little bit, I couldn't, it was a really good tree, it was a peeing tree, and I had to go pee on the peeing tree. Jack Russell says, okay, I want you to shake paws. And so the dogs kind of shake paws and they make up, and everybody's like, oh, and is there any other problems? And the Alsatian gets up. I dug this hole, I put this bone in the hole. I'd been leaving it, like curating it carefully. It's smelly, it was rank, it was 6-month-old bone, and the guilty finger gets pointed, and just at this moment, at the back of the hole, woof! This woof does, and it's Chihuahua. And Chihuahua's going crazy. Sniffing around. And then the Chihuahua looks out and says, oh, the tail house. It's on fire. Oh, pandemonium. There's teeth, there's claws, there's scratching. And all of the dogs from the hole, they all try and bust out of the door all at the same time. Oh, it's a mess. There's bits of fur and scrabbling and sand and scratches going everywhere. And they run across through the smoke and they get to the little tail house. There's choking, smoking bellows coming out and they can't see. So each one of the dogs, they runs in, they just goes to any old hook and they grab any old tail. And they stick the tail straight back on their butt and they start to paddle the walker. And they paddle in the walker and they go off across back to their own places. And one by one they find their way home. And the way that the story gets told in the islands by the mama to the children, or by the grandfather to the children, they say, so now you know, children, every time a dog meets another dog, the first thing they do is they go to the back of the other dog and they look and say, is that my tail? I wonder if that's my tail. And the other dog, he turns around and goes around in a circle and says, is that my tail? No, that's not my tail.
That's beautiful.
And there's a piece about humor and dogs. Yeah. But there's also a piece about how a story can hold some kernel of truth. And the islanders were absolute magicians at translating humor and play into the origins of something so primal as sniffing each other's butts. So when I'm with a bunch of men around a fire now, I can use the story to say, hey, it's okay to sniff each other's butts here. You want to have a scratch around and you want to work out where the pecking order is.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So it can have a slight, like a piece to...
I also love how what happened to the Alsatian's bone is never resolved. It's just left open.
Well, I left that there for you. So I've given you your bone.
Yeah.
So you get a piece of the story. That's the hook. So let's go with the hook. How's that?
Yeah.
Let's go with the hook. We talked a couple of days ago about what does a hook mean. And, I welcome in Maori. I'm not from Aotearoa, but I'm Maori. I practice Maori. And I feel the energy of Maori through the bird song, through the trees, through the stories, through karakia, and to te reo, and through my relation. And in it, Maui said, hey, I got a story for you. And do you? Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me about this. And Maui talked about the hook and the way that some folks wear a hook around they're offering the world that they're the humor. They have a capacity to have wit, to tell a joke or tell a yarn, but also to feed the village. Because this one, when you wear the hook, it says, I'm a fisherman. Yeah, I'm a fisherman. Right. And when I got this hook around my neck and I'm saying I'm a fisherman, and all the connotations of that, because you go back to some person in Galilee who called a lot of fishermen to them, because that's how he was rolling. He wanted these ones that could feed the people. And Maui was a fisherman. The way I'm seeing it, Maui could feed the people. And how do we feed the people? We have to trick the fish. And when we trick the fish, this is a noble trickery. This is a play. This is a game which I'm going to tell, you got this bit? I'm going to tell the fish that I'm giving it free lunch. And the joke is that the fish is the free lunch, right? And so there's this play that we enter into as the human species, that there's a necessary and very important, respectful piece about the honouring of the transformation from that fish intelligence into our own bodies. And this is when my lens, I own it, that in that storying and in that relating to the fish and to the trickster and to the mischief or the trickery, I find something that supports my own growth as a person, that I find that now I can look at when I'm intentionally creating an illusion to capture something, and I need to be in relationship with that as a storyteller, because I need to create a hook. And the hook line.
And as a storyteller, are there themes that you return to, do you think? Or
Yeah. There's some of the themes that I've returned to recently, or one of the characters that I've returned to recently is Raven. And the piece about Raven is informing a relationship with origin. And so the theme of origins and origination comes really to a surface of a theme. I'm interested in it because there's something primal in origins, like the origin of fire, the origin of the sun or the moon, and I can feel the breath of ancestors whispering while I'm telling a story, because there's some energy that they've offered to that story again and again. And I don't know how many different tellers have used the same story, or have been not used but been used by the story. They've become the vessel, and the story's poured out of them. And yeah, origin. Yeah, so origins come up for me, and yeah, I'm stalked. Yeah, I'll name Dr. Martin Short with gratitude, because he talked about you should be hunted by a story, and I got interested in why I should be hunted, why I should be stalked. I thought I'm supposed to be in charge of the process, and I'm supposed to read the book, right? And then I learned the story verbatim. And what Martin Short was offering was just a little window into a different way of receiving a story. So the way that I receive a story now is I'm hunted by it, or there's a consistent knock on the door. I open the door, and the story's presenting itself in various themes and places in my life that it won't go away, because I have a need to get to that wisdom place, and the best way to do it is to be engaged with the story. And so that then feeds the process, that by becoming in a deeper relationship with the story again, I get to interrelate to my everyday life, and backwards and forwards, and so it's like a heart beating in the center of it. And I find that there's a great deal of meat on a bone. There's a great deal of marrow, if you like, in the bone of an old story. And yeah, I'd like to just offer a piece to maybe clarify that. It sounds a bit mystical, it sounds a bit far away. So I'll bring it back. And there's a piece about a story that hunted me, that will give a piece to this. So I've been practicing a drumming, just a drumming, very simple drumming practice at home. And while I was practicing this drumming practice, the person who was instructing me with the drumming, a person called Michael Drake, he shared a very brief story about grandfather fire. Let's just call it the grandfather fire, and the clever, the circle of clever animal brothers, something like that. And as I went and read it, and for that I'm changed, because as soon as I let the story in, it wouldn't let me rest. I had to go back to it again and again. And then what I decided to do is I decided to try and get in touch with Michael Drake, the writer of the book, and I wanted to talk to him about, like, where did it come from. And he'd done the honourable and respectful thing of giving some source in his notes. So then I thought, well, I'll talk to both people, and I went and talked to somebody called Jade Wahoo, who lives on the other side of the planet in Arizona. And when I related to him, I found that he's had a relationship with shamanism that's been passed down through generational. And I said, look, I'm really grateful for this chance to cut it all with you, because I'm coming from Aotearoa, and I've got this leaning towards stories. And I read this piece, and the story kind of like it had its way with me until now. I'm here at your doorstep. And he said, oh, this is great, Ian, let's talk. So we get on the phone, and we write some text, and we leave some voice messages, and then he says, we'll have a chat. So I sat in here about 6 months ago and said to him, Jade, it's got me. And I said, I need to know something. Where did this story come from? Ian, it's an origin story. It doesn't have an origin. Of course.
Wonderful.
Thank you, J.Y., for this piece about how exciting is that something could have possibly emerged.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So thanks, Jade, because he brought humour into it too.
Totally.
And then I just asked him, okay, but Jade, I still got to do this. I still got to ask you, like, where did you hear it first? He said, I heard it from my grandfather. And I said, you just got to tell me your grandfather's name. I got to hear you speak his name. And when he spoke his name, I sat where you're sitting and I cried for 15 minutes. And he was very, very kind and very kind of not diplomatic, but he allowed me to have my experience. And he took, like he said, Ian, it sounds like you're doing, you're holding your part of magic. Oh, and then I've been met by the story as well. I've been blessed. And when I'm blessed by that, then I can hold that with respect and relationing. And the next time you and I are sat around a fire, I know that you're going to say, hey, Ian, what's that story about the grandfather fire, right? Because it's you and I can now have that as a safe container of a story. It's a necessity when you got a beast of a story. And I don't want to do it bad by calling it a beast, but I'm calling this like thing. It's animal.
Yeah.
It's got teeth and claws, and it can change. It can come into our lives, and it can rearrange, and it can invoke, and by necessity, we as human beings have felt it.
Yeah.
An important thing to share. Everything from Goldilocks to the Big Bad Wolf to Lewis Carroll and to layer upon layer upon layer of stories, and there's this piece that I enjoy. That's can you be quiet, please? We're just having a conversation in here.
He's talking to the plane, so just in case you can't hear them. The interruptions of
it's good.
Machines.
Modernity.
Yeah.
How does that go? Yeah.
And with storytelling, to me, there looks like there's a brew of craft and magic and ceremony and all this wonderful stuff. Does that sit with you? It's like how do you navigate between those requirements or?
Oh right, yeah. Hermes.
Yeah.
Hermes. Yeah. He's my guy. The one who wears the winged helmet, right? And he's got this job, right? He's got a role. He's got a hat.
Yep.
Right. And he flies in between like Olympus and the people. Because there's a necessary messenger in this, right?
Yep.
So the messenger's going to fly from the lofty heights and he's going to translate something en route. And that fits perfectly into the realm of story, of song, of prayer. And it lands someplace amongst the people. And yeah, I get this piece of like his mercurial capacity to hold a whole host of concepts and ideas, and with like a quicksilver capacity, so the mind is flying. So this quicksilver nature is the thing that I've been aligned to, and I feel that I've been aligned to it from the solar system. Yes, so sort of from a wider energetic that I offer that it's not just Ian Brown, this human thing. It feels like there's a right time and there is a right place and there's an intersection there where time and space met in the right way of unfolding, and I happen to be the person who caught that energy because I had the right components to carry them, and then and so too the skill set that I could say, oh well, I'm interested in clowning and I'm interested in stories and I'm interested in the earth and nature and relationing, and I like people, and so without trying to write a shopping list of all of the nice things about me, that just happened to be the set of things that I had, and I never planned that. I couldn't know, this is too complicated to sort of, but in it there's some practices of things like intentionality and setting out some kind of plan to go forward, some kind of like envisaging into the future. And part of it was like I was 40, and it was my 40th birthday, and I was bankrupt, and I was a functioning alcoholic, right? So I say that like not to bash myself or to particularly like aggrandize myself. It felt a little bit like when I came to the culture of Aotearoa, New Zealand, and I'd say it was a kind of a colonial tradition to be in relationship to alcohol, and I say that with like respect to, if it's our shit, then we should be like holding that. And yeah, in that I found myself at 40 years old in a bit of a dark space, a really dark space. You know, there's pornography that was like really invasive into the masculine world, and how that was just ridiculously available all of a sudden in kind of secrecy and really dark corners of men's life experience. And those things were my reality, where I was struggling financially, bankruptcy as I said, and those other pieces didn't feel like I was really finding something. I didn't have tūronga waiwa, and at that time Māori concepts through the education system started to be offered into my body and offered into just seeds, if you like, and I was welcoming them because I thought, well, I'm pretty comfortable in my own Celtic perspective from a Druidic tradition and a well-practiced Druid tradition, and so I have my own tūronga waiwa, but I didn't know what it was. So I needed to be away from my place of standing in the Celtic countries, be here to explore what it is to know where to stand. And there's that I don't want to call it a theory, but that kind of way of embodying life, to be in the life force in Māori order. There's this piece that a visioning appeared at that time, and I had to very consciously say, okay, I'm going to do a whole life refit. I'm going to get my big piece of paper out and my drafting table and my pens and pencils and coloured things, and colour in a mind map with clouds and thoughts and possibilities and dreams and what I was and what I'd like to be and where I'm going. And so I reached that crossroads, and as I reached that crossroads of choices, I can look back at it now as a person that's been through the journey 15 years later, that decided I will be a storyteller, because that fits the clown, and that fits the drama, that fits the music, the drumming, that fits the laughter yoga that I was practicing at the time, that fits my druidry and my passion for world mythology, and I have those things. I'm just not integrating them. I'm not like connecting with others. It's a beautiful question, and I'm really grateful to be able to go to that place again, because here in all of this light that we find ourselves in this space and all of this new life of the birds tweeting around us and things, I feel safe to let that thing not have its way with me.
Good.
To show that I've moved, to feel, to be recognised that I've moving through.
Archetypes.
Okay.
And the returning to and the use of archetypes. We've got mutual friends and acquaintances who, like Martin, you mentioned before, uses the archetype of the wolf a lot, and Tom Hirons uses the archetype of the bear a lot. Where do archetypes fit within your journey and your storytelling?
Oh, fantastic question. I'm really enjoying this. Oh. Yeah. When I was 40, when I was going through this process, I looked into the Druidic order, and there was one of the space holders of the Druidic Order who'd created some sets of archetypes in card forms, story archetypes. So she'd created like a deck of characters, archetypes and quests. So you have the questing knight, and you have the emperor, and you have the page boy, and you have the messenger, and you have very specific roles within stories that an audience, listeners, sharers in the experience can envisage together from a collective mind. So the archetype is in my perception, is how our collective consciousness needs to have the stars in the sky, so that we're held in some kind of map, in some kind of structure, so that it's not just a homogeneous black plop of night sky, which would be the soup of stories, and to be dropped into the soup of stories would be terrifying for myself or any individual to get dropped in. So the archetype seems to be this piece of consciousness, this piece of collective consciousness that we can readily apply our knowing to, and we can introduce people to new archetypes, and one by one we collect these archetypes, either consciously or unconsciously. We say in our culture, hey, there's the cap and badge guy. He's a thing. We know him, you know. Here's the big matron. You know, we know what that means. And often I get kind of queer and curious. Like I question and I queer the kind of idea of like racial stereotyping and racial archetyping. Because where does the line sit? And I'm really curious about this because, you know, there's a piece of almost closing down of, well, there's some necessary archetypes to show us there's boundaries, and we do have separation, we do have difference, even though in the same breath there's no separation. But the piece of separation for me is like this piece of what I'd say that there's a healthy archetype that, you know, I could say that all Australians have corks from their hats and say, "G'day, mate," and you know, and I'm sure any Kiwi would kind of smile at that and say that's a fair archetype without being insulting or rude, right? And so there's a constantly changing relationship, a sensitivity to stereotypes and archetypes, and I'm kind of curious about that today. And there's this other piece about how potent and wonderful it is as a storyteller to just throw like a hand grenade of archetype into the pot. Bring forth Baba Yaga. Yes. You know, bring forth the wolf. You know, the wolf and the moon, and we all know immediately. Yes. So there's these really sort of strong formations that have been retold and retold and retold. And what I'm looking for today in my practice is those stories that have like that kind of primal potency. And part of it is seeing the engine and then saying, well, we don't need that part of it anymore. We take that bit out, we take this bit out, and we'll see how it runs without those things. So I need to tell the story multiple times in different frameworks and different relations, and then it distills. And when we're in this distillation, then we've distilled to an archetype, right? And then there's this interesting piece, because sometimes you may experience this, or I may experience this, it's just like, so what's my archetype? And I don't even want to really look. No. And I don't want anybody to see the thing that I'm not revealing, because I don't want to be an archetype, because an archetype feels like it's a pigeonhole.
Totally.
And I don't want to be the guy with the cap and the badge. And I don't want to be the big matron who rolls up her sleeves. I don't want to play those things because... So there's this interesting thing for human beings that they kind of allow it in stories, for the archetypes to be there. But then when the story's finished, we weren't really in archetype land. And it's like, I don't know what the name for it, I can't remember what the name for it is, but it's like a collaborative secret that, you know, like a convenient kind of, we'll go along with it and we'll tell the story. We'll be in archetype world and we'll know that everybody does have an archetype. Yeah.
And you touched there on the card deck.
Yeah.
And I've seen you do card readings. You've very generously gifted me some.
Yeah.
What does that process look like for you? What has drawn you to those doing card readings as well?
Interesting. When I was really little, my mum saw me with the deck of cards, and I can't remember. I think maybe my grandma had a book on tarot or something like that, and she said, "Oh, I think it was your great grandma. She used to like to read the tea leaves." And I got, you know, looking at the bottom of the tea leaves, and I kind of went, you know, I turned the cup and went, "Oh, you know, I see a lion or something like that." You know, and it's like, oh, you can do that. It's just if you allow, and I got myself out of the way a little bit.
Yeah.
And that was interesting. I think that there's a choice that people can make, and I believe that that's kind of that choice can be informed, an informed choice. And so through a process of looking at like the Druids used to look at a flight of birds, and that was an augury, right? The Romans used to look at the entrails of an animal, like that had recently been sacrificed, or you know, it's difficult to use the word sacrifice for me without getting excited about that story as well. So there's this piece about, there's this piece about what you want to look at. How do you want to look at it? Does you want to go to a scrying pool? Yeah. Which is in like a Glastonbury. I went and visited a scrying pool that was, you know, maybe 3.5 meters wide, like a circle, very low, in a very gloomy space, lit by candles. It was so gentle, so holy. It was a holy well. Yeah. And pilgrims were encouraged to go there in contemplation of maybe a deceased loved one that they desperately wanted to hear from, or they wanted to pass a message to the other way of like well wishes, and there would be a place to ceremonially wash the body first, and then to stand maybe in just a thin smock or something like that and see, and to use the eyes as a kind of receptivity to those pictures that may come from the gloom. And I kind of offer that gloom word as in there's a processing of grief in that too, eh? So sometime recently a friend lost his father, and I talked to him about the process of grief, and I talked to him about Cinderella, the story of Cinderella, and how the ashes are significant in the cinders. So you got Cinderella, and the idea comes from the cinder biter, which is a practice that was held in the Nordic kind of nation, where if a person had lost a relative or a loved one, a deceased, they were offered the role of becoming the cinder biter. Maybe not even a role so much as it was just a natural thing that the person would lose themselves. And the village would see that there was someone who was so deep in grief that they really weren't engaging in the process of everyday life, and they would let them be, allowing.
Just sleep by the fire, and that's all you had to worry about.
By the fire, and so what they did was they would tend the ashes, and they believed that in the tending of the ashes there was a process of augury was happening there. There was this piece about looking at the cards, about seeing a vision and finding it within the fire, and they said that they sometimes lose themselves so much that they would eat the ashes. So they're eating the agent of transformation. So that the wood, the fire, the primal aspect of a longhouse, of a community living together, where they know that this Tane Mahuta, the wood has been burned. And in its burning it's giving its gift of fire and life to us. And it's transforming itself. The tree is the sacrifice. The wool tree has been venerated, celebrated, and what's left is the agent of, or the resultingness. And the resultingness would possibly be eaten by the cinder biter, who later on becomes Cinderella. Because now we see Cinderella at a hearth place, and she's having to do the necessary grief work, and she's sweeping it up, right?
The other good thing about this eating cinders and eating charcoal is it's a purative thing.
Right, so it absorbs toxins out of our bodies.
Yeah.
And maybe we're pulled to that in our grief, and I tried to share this, and I hope it landed well for my brother, that I sort of confirmed his rightness in not wanting to engage in the experience of being told, oh, it's going to be okay, he's in a better place now. Because it's such a sacred thing that the person's still having dialogue. And here's the curiosity in that, is it okay for somebody then to step forward and say, I feel like I need some support from my community, or I feel like I need some refocusing, and I'm going to ask the cards, or I'm going to ask the scrying pool, or I'm going to ask the shimmering colours of green on a leaf as it twists, and I'll see a picture in it. Maybe I'll see a green man who'll emerge and whisper something to me from my ancestors, and that's a vision. So the cards for me became that place of like, oh, this is a great place to creatively dance with stories, and because a lot of the card work that I do is related to animals, so I don't attempt in any way to read the future. What I'm offering is the energies of an animal. So if I was to offer you some cards, you'd maybe take the cat, and I'd tell you a story about cats. And obviously while I'm telling you the story about cats slinking into your heart space, or and then cat can come and do the whispering. I don't need to do that. I'm not engaged in my agenda to get you to think of things from my perspective. It's just, it's an old model that has been used in the past with sort of practitioners of various forms of readings can be doing this for money. We only have to go back as far as like Greece, and you're talking about the one who sat on a stool, and she was in Delphi, and she was the oracle, a brass stool, right? And sitting on that stool, there was a crack underneath the stool, right? And the crack, they said that it was like the serpent, and the essence of the serpent was coming through the ground. Well, it was on like a broken fault line, and it was sulfuric kind of emanations, gases that were coming up and putting her into a trance. That went on for generations, and there was a priesthood that was related to that. And like I could make that masculine or feminine, it doesn't suit an agenda either way. But what happened is that that became charged. It became a pay-per-view experience.
Right, yes.
So once that happens, there's an agenda to get the person to come back in 2 weeks' time. Ding, ding!
And here we have modern therapy.
Right. So a lot of this conversation is based in freedom, brother.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for this this energy between us that is like, there isn't a transaction happening.
No.
You know? There's a piece that there is a transaction, but the word transaction is a bit sullied.
Yeah.
Because it has a connotation of the economic.
Yeah.
Right. And so, maybe the transaction, maybe the third voice in this is a box of birds.
Yes.
Who are singing in the background, and that's wealth.
Yeah, totally.
Right, abundance.
I have that painting as you went into our house. You just described it. I found it in Australia, and it drew to
the brass chair.
Yeah, of the woman sitting on the brass chair with the crack, and it led me on a journey to want to understand what that was.
I have a friend who's related to that line.
Oh, right.
And when I showed him I bought a postcard maybe of the same image.
Yeah.
Truly amazing. He's in Glastonbury, called Kieran Sibley. And he said, what are you doing bringing this picture here? And I said, I don't know, it's a beautiful postcard, have you seen it? It's like, I'm going to Delphi. Because I went off to go and I went and stood there, and sometimes, here's the other piece of the storyteller. If you go there to the location, then you're at a node.
Yes.
And your body memory holds the space. So when the richness of the storying emerges, we're drawing from some space that's eternal, that's the planet, that's our ecosystem, that is true source. True source is feeding that piece about Delphi because I went there. I go to drop this. It's okay. There's another bit of story that's related to Delphi. I was still a single guy, lone traveler. Last time I went lone traveling was like going to Athens, and I went because I love Greece and the mythology. It's something poetic. Like I think one or two of my poetry books just channel straight out of Greek, the Greek kind of energy that's available because they worship the muse. And like, if we're going to get into that, then we'll have to make another podcast about this idea of Pleiadian kind of energy and how the muses with this breath on a cauldron, right? Anyway, so there's the preamble. And it's just me, and I'm on my Jack Jones, and I'm wandering around. I get to Delphi, and I'm like, wow, chips and calamari on a street corner. It's gorgeous. I'm fiercely writing poetry because I've got this burning up because I want to have a voice. I want to say something. And then I get to this. I go to see the amphitheater there, and I wandered up to this amphitheater. The whole place was empty, like. This civilization that's still in the landscape there, and it was harmonious. The shape followed the contours of the land, and then I imagined how, I don't know if it was Apollo who rode two dolphins, one on each foot, Delphi, right, and how the dolphins came up the river, and he named the place as he came up the river and said, this is where we will begin. This is the new place, our new Eden. We begin a new chapter of and I'm like, wow, it's amazing. So I clambered, and I think I was smoking a cigarette, sitting there, on my Jack Jones, and I was trying to write some lyrics or something like that, and I heard the most amazing sound, and I looked down, and there was a beautiful woman down there, Wahini, and she was singing, and she went into absolute full opera.
Wow.
Like nothing. You could pay hundreds of bucks to go to, I don't know, the Barbican or like the Met for like the greatest, soprano. I'm pretty uncultured in that. But when her heart opened and her friend was stood as far away from her as I am to you right now, and she just kind of gave her a nudge and went, go on.
Wow.
And she did. And she filled that whole space, and the trees bowed to her, and the wind rippled around her and created like clouds of eddies and spaces that danced. And she was calling in, evoking. She was a magical experience. I'm still there, profoundly bewildered, dumbstruck, with my mouth sort of half open, like, I don't know. I don't know what she's singing. I don't know what this signifies. And all I can say is I picked myself up when she'd kind of given us like this pretty extensive rendition of a piece, and I was kind of getting back to just being in the world, right? And her and a friend were walking up the other side of the steps, and I just looked at her and I caught her eye for a moment and I said, "Thank you." And she just dropped her gaze and smiled, but it landed. There'd been a moment of intimacy, and she was the oracle. She was the thing that I couldn't understand but will live with me and through me as some form of inspiration, and I felt that was a good line to just throw in there.
It's put a tear to my eye. Just the raw beauty of that is just stunning.
Yeah.
It's really stunning.
Yeah. I'm curious about how we can, as people, like as members of our community, without fearing a tall poppiness, how can we inspire a whole community? I'd like to say young people because they're sort of so worthy to inspire, but one another without the continual itchy thing on the back saying, "Oh, don't put your head up too far." People don't like that. You could be seen as being aloof or too grand. And
yeah, that's one of the things about New Zealand that's frustrated me the most is that tall poppy thing. I think we really need to start challenging the culture of dismissing that and allowing people to grow and stand up and sing to it.
You know, and this really is it too. It's like standing and how it offers something of our heart. Of our sharing and of our giving. So.
And the use of the word pretentious as well. When people are just doing their thing, to bandy that word pretentious is so dismissive and destructive. It's one of the words I'd love to see banned.
Let's go plant some words in the garden.
Not that we should be banning any words. You're in Golden Bay. You've been around the world a lot. By the sound of it. What brought you? What energy dragged you, or invited you, or whatever the word is for being here?
Yeah, not difficult. There's a piece of Panamu that I invited into my relating, and it came from possibly the Takaka River, maybe a bit further up in the Cobb or something, and it was in 2006 or 7 or something like that, and a chap called Dave Mahal, he was organising the Mardi Gras, or the Mardi Gras as it was kind of fondly referred to, on the village green. And I was just a backpacker with a little camper van, and I did a clown show for him, and it was really nice because Dave was so cool. He just offered me hey, no fuss, here's $100, you just blow your balloons, and he just treated me like you should be treated, as an artist, because I found that really strange in our culture that an artist has to kind of there's a suggestion of poverty is nobility. It's not. Poverty is a pain in the ass. And so I was really gratefully received, and I was celebrated, and I played, and I had fun in the community. And in it, there's a seed of myself that's been here since 2007. And then I went away, and I took this piece of Panama with me, but not before I'd driven out to the Spit. And as I drove just towards Collingwood, I can still remember looking around and thinking, I think this is possibly the most beautiful landscape that I've ever seen, that I've ever been in a relationship to. And so when there was a time for parenting and children, and when I kind of found that there was a little bit more to life with love and with my wife, it was something very very wholesome about like this place, this space, this time, and it's a real mystery. It's a real. I mean, and there's some things that are so intimate about being chosen by the land, and there's something that's scarily woo-woo about it. This is like, you know, like, to just be brief about it, like our child was, little Arwen was conceived when we didn't live here, but we were here, and I don't mean that in a woo. I mean we were physically here, and we visited for a weekend, and then we were gone, and we didn't even realize that 9 months later a house would be sold, another journey would have happened, 1,000-mile walk with my wife and me across 1,000-kilometer walk across Australia would have happened, and we got married, and then we were going to look for a place to live, and we could go to Mahua, we could go to the South Island. We said the South Island, and we had a little look around, and we got signals and symbols and signs in the pathway, and we said okay, and before we know it, we settled down in the space that our daughter was conceived the 9 months prior to that, and she just arrived with her Tudonga Waiwai. So I get it, and I don't. It's a complete mystery to me that there's like my river and my mountain piece, which is just beautiful poetry, but it's so practical. It's such an earthy practice, a grounded practice, a good practice to name those things. And I started to realize if I can do that to the places that my whenua is in North Wales, which incidentally was in an incinerator. That's what happened to the whenua. Like for a long time in the 70s, they'd just get dragged out the back of the hospital and stuck in a big burner, right? So I struggled with that for a bit, and then kind of made peace with it, that we could be so wasteful. And I say we, but I'm only looking from a lens of somebody else who's grown through that culture of seeing the kind of the wastefulness, and it's kind of to belief that we kind of almost some kind of immortal thing, and just immortal's different from walking with some humility, but like being in a dance with infinity. Yummy. And so her mountain and her river, Arwen's mountain and her river are here, and I see her with her ankles in the stream, and she's just it's home. And there's this other piece as well that I just add to the whole soup of it, is the exact place where she was conceived is a place of coastal erosion, and it's no longer there. So she her land, her whenua, the earth underneath this place that held us for that moment, is being drawn, and the poet in me loves it. That there's this transient nature to how we are on the world, how we are, and it's a blessing almost that I offer to my children, is that if they can see that thing, they know they belong here. They don't have to claim an exact spot. And there's a piece where when I first arrived in Aotearoa, I was asked a lot, like, where you from? You know, like in the classic Fat Boy Slim way, when he was in Brighton, he wrote a whole piece of music that was called "You're Not From Here, Are You?" Which is what you get in Fresh Choice when you just made a cheeky joke with somebody, and she looks and says, "You're not from here, are you?" and there's a suggestion to that about where do you belong in the dialogue of Kiwis with other people who have arrived. So then when we have a Maori conversation and a Pākehā conversation for new immigrants, even the word immigrants is pretty hostile,
isn't it?
So they got this like piece about, I started to cheekily return the offer, where you from? I would say
me.
I would point directly at my chest, or point down at the ground and say, I'm earthling. Let's leave it at that. Can we leave it at that? Because I don't need to be too specific. when I'm thinking about a galactic project, that this is a space and time traveling vehicle, that you, I, and everybody on it, we're on it. And we're traveling through space and time at vast giddying speeds that are really complicated to comprehend for the human consciousness. And in it, we're dazzled by our relationship with the stars and the journey through that. And we're navigating our walker, our planetary walker, through a vast ocean. And there's a mythology about that. And it was a great turtle. And it was on the back of 4 elephants. You got this one right? You remember, right? And so, you know, there's cascades of waterfalls that come down this, and she's swimming through space. This beautiful turtle. Through the nebula, through exploding eons, through dimensions, and through vast powers that I can't even comprehend within myself. But I can be in relationship to it if I change my frame of reference to, X marks the place where I emerged from. Oh, I am all things. I'm related to all things. And all things are related.
It's certainly a better answer than I'm from Merseyside.
I'm from Liverpool.
Many artists sort of find themselves living at the margins of society, like the liminal spaces, on the edge of the turtle. And that's come up quite a lot for us over this last couple of days, is that sort of being at the edges of space, the edges of communities, and that's where we've discussed, like, that's where the beekeepers and the magic makers and all these people live. What does that mean to you?
There's a tradition in Britain of the fields, in between the fields of farmers' fields, they always left about 3 meters, 4 meters, 5 meters of a strip in between every field. So you kind of had a space in between the space that was left to be forest, because there was a recognition that space was the space that maybe fed the energy and the biodynamics of the place. We've got all these great terms for it now, but back then it was quite simple. It was just that felt right. Well, let's leave a big space, and we'll leave some of the oak trees in the centre of the field. You go through Anglesey and you go through some of, like, this down in the southern kind of parts of Britain, and there was a lot of trees left. I mean, you go out to East Takaka today and you'll see the totara trees, that some old styles of agriculture, they recognize that these are all ancestors, they're ancient. So let's leave them there because they're offering some kind of wisdom into the soil. Yeah, so they're informing, and they're informing so much. So the reason I go to that piece is these edges, these borderlands, is where our human experience is informed. And I have an experience in this life that I was taken to the place in between fields, and I was put into the root, the crux of a root of an oak tree, and 3 space holders sang the tree and myself into a place. They sang me into something sacred, and so that makes today a worthy relationship, a useful relationship, a continuing relationship with the edges. And the thing that I found here in this space as I'm looking out there into the Manuka and the Kanuka is, when I go down there, put my blanket out there and I go and lie down there, I feel that I can be the closest to my emotional thing. I see my children growing up on the edges of things, and I'm curious how sometimes it feels safer to be on the edge of an experience when we're looking into a culture. because some of the things that are happening in the center of the culture are so complicated and dangerous.
Totally.
You know, and I could speak to that, as I say,
it's an interesting space, because like we are drawn to being on beaches, between cultures and land, and the big unknown, and the edges of forests and the edges of fields, and it feels like there's a psychological magic that happens in that safety and the awe and the beauty, and which I just there's something there.
Yeah. And I love the beach kind of thing, because there's a word in Welsh which is tide, and tide means grandfather, and the tide, as I see it, is the ocean, and so like the coming and the going of ancestry in a liminal space. It speaks to me of our ancestors, our grandmothers and grandfathers, who come into to welcome us and then retreat. It's like, Haramai, you're welcome, come to this place in between the land and the ocean. And so the planet itself, it's not a metaphor, it's a reality, but we could see it as a metaphor too, which is, it's coming, it's going, it's retreating, and it does that in the liminal space. You go in the middle of the field, there's no dynamic. You go into the middle of the whirligig of modern consumeristic culture, there's no dynamic happening. It's flat, it's a flat line. It looks like there's loads of shit going on, but when you get past the cover of the avatar, the book cover, the content is literally, there's nothing on the pages. The suggestion is, you're supposed to write the book that goes on when you go and live in a city. You're supposed to write everything and do everything yourself, and that can be really complicated for people if they don't have that skill set to then empower that whole world, when then they haven't got anything to naturally inform them. And that's again this piece that and I would say the liminal spaces of nature specifically inform the human wiring of our neurological system to be healthy, to be well, to be fulfilled, to experience inspiration, ideas. And I feel it as I'm saying, I'm like, that's not me, that's us. That's a groundswell movement of many conscious gods out there, and I'm probably preaching to the choir. You know, this is a lot of people who maybe I'll hear that and think that and see that and say, oh yeah, it's not so complicated, Ian, you can simplify it. Well, yeah, okay, let's be simple about it. Just go sleep under a tree. You don't have to choose a rainy night, don't have to choose a windy, dark night. Just go take a blanket and fall asleep underneath the tree, and when you wake up, you have a little bit of dribble down there, you maybe found a little creak in your neck, or you've got a squirrel's come and crapped on your head. You know, but as Joseph Campbell said, you know, birds will come and shit on you. Don't bother to wipe it off. You leave it there as a reminder that humour will get you through this experience, these challenging moments in our life. Thank you, Joseph. You know, this piece about don't take it all too seriously. Take one for the team and allow a bird to crap on you. And you know, then maybe we'll experience the piece of Thoreau. I think it was Thoreau who said he was out in a field and he was hoeing, and a sparrow alighted on his shoulder, and he was more dazzled by it in this experience, or more celebrated in this experience, than by any epithet that he could have been awarded as some badge of honorary titles. And in that, you know, to really have that sense that I'm engaged and related to the very physical nature of the animal ecosystem, and I want to grieve. I want to grieve. I want to know that this planet could have a lot more animal in it. Could have a lot more, and I can see that there's pieces of that becoming a reality, and I throw up a cautionary moment to say, but not at our influence. not DNA codes being taken from one thing and being placed into another, so that we can Frankensteinianly map a new tomorrow that's not a new tomorrow that is choice by people. And so there's that we have together as community, that we have the right to say, I won't inform, I won't give time, attention, or finance particularly to supporting that paradigm of tinkering. Yeah, no tinkering, please.
We've already done that with cows and sheep.
Cows and sheep and the lime green fields of this kind of new kind of grass that's being kind of designed in a laboratory, and I could sound like a whinging, but I'm not. I'm still keeping my humanness in that, and a hopefulness, and a fixedness. That there is a relation that we need to honour in the birds and the bees, and in the realms of animals.
And it feels like it leads us quite neatly onto plant medicine.
Yeah.
And how we've had lots of conversations about this stuff.
Yeah.
And what does it mean to you? What has it gifted you and the people around you in the community? And what is plant medicine for those who have no idea?
Oh yeah. Dog's just walked in again. What's this? Plants. There's been a relationship of consumption. Okay, so I'm going to just come back. Let's take a step back a little bit. I'm not hedging this. I'm really keen to come into clarity and come into relation and right relation through this kind of form that I realized at some point in my life I needed to be on the front foot of managing my own consciousness. And consciousness is input in, input out. Okay, science. Okay, boom. Oh, don't like doing that because I like the mystery. But I'll also name it when it's useful to express that you are what you eat. You eat what you are what you eat. So yeah, if I got subtle and talked about ginger root, if I got clear about vervain, if I got interested about psilocybin, if I was curious to take anything from the natural world and put it inside of my body, it may be because there's a third voice in this, and there's like an intuitive nature that's been passed down. Get this, 200,000 years. The part of your hunter-gatherer brain is 200,000 years old. Your agricultural brain, which is a completely separate beast, which was marked in the landscape by monoliths. You know, thou shalt give up your heathen ways to come and join the agriculturalists, and we're all working together in the fields and we're keeping things. And in this moment there's consumption on the line, literally on the line, right? There was images of like axes carved into these big monoliths to say, you come through this line of stones in the landscape of the Northern Hemisphere, Germany, France, Britain. The agriculturalists created images, and so too the heathens kind of came up and made their own images on the other side of the fence to say, you know, the hunter-gatherers. They said, okay, we're of a different consciousness. Some of us as humans evolved at different times, and for convenience of consumption, and these are these really hot potatoes, man. Like, these are the ones you're juggling to keep burning your fingers on. So consumption and convenience at the same time. How does that translate to what I am today and what our culture's become? Oh, it's dreadful.
Yeah.
I'm full of dread. I'm full of dread. I gotta feel it though. I gotta feel it because it's my mum.
Yeah.
She's Papa Tunuku. What a shoddy trick. How's that? How's it unfolding? And my responsibility in all of this is like, what am I consuming? Am I eating the cow with saggy tits that's dragging its ass and its bones sticking out of its butt because it's just a good milker? Am I eating happy meat? Am I hunting myself? Or am I planting my greens in the garden? Because then I'm taking a burden that I could just dump on Papa Tunu because she just keep giving. Because she loves us. This system, this earth system, this planetary system is full of love. And it's giving. And I think that that's an interesting indication for you and I to go out into our families. To say, okay, if I receive that loving energy and use some kind of intellect or reasoning that sits between us to then say, right, I'm going to make a conscious choice about what I put inside my body. I'm going to put good medicine inside my body. I'm going to put healthy medicine inside my body. I'm going to put strong medicine inside my body. I'm going to put clear medicine inside my body because it's all medicine. Every plant out there's got a secret. You know, acorn tea. I don't know. Let's try. We may get like the runs for a little bit, but you never know. It may cure us of bowel cancer. And don't even get us started about what's the Amazon. Is that not the greatest storehouse of the possibilities of a forest system? Like we're talking about biodynamics. Whoa! Like just the edges of it. I'd be too frightened to go 1 mile on foot in there without a guide and maybe a machete and maybe a bulletproof something, It's like, help me, to not get too excited about the journey of plant medicines. So I don't run off too deep into the forest. And there's some elderly wisdom for us. So as a beginner, sort of as somebody who doesn't really have any dance at all with plants, trust yourself and trust the third voice, which often is the plant. So our hunter-gatherer brothers and sisters for 200,000 years would have taken a plant and maybe held it or maybe felt it, and they would have felt and seen an image inside of themselves about cause and effect, right? What is this going to do for me? And look, I got foot fungus. I got mold on my body. It's horrible, bro. I've had it for 40 years, something like that, And recently I found a free-growing fungus. So hold on, fungus and fungus. I've got body fungus, and I've got an internal one, but then I find an external one who's popping out in the forest saying, hey, waving its things like, on the desktop. It's the icon that jumps up and down and goes, thing. And I'm like, hold on, I'm frightened about that because I've been told a cultural story. And the cultural story is very scary, and it's about death and about toxicity. And it's about, don't touch that mushroom! And I said that to my children once. I'm sorry. Because what I experienced is when I did a little bit of research about this particular plant, and I started to have courage to consume a little dose, my fungus cleared up.
Wow.
Right, so I've had for the last 8 months a fungus-free experience. And the concern for me had been ongoing about, well, I wonder if this is the beginning of some kind of cancerous experience for my body as it's going into degeneration. And this other fungus has come in and said, I'm bossing your fungus. I'm big fungus, this one, a little fungus. She rolls up her sleeves like a matron, like a Russian matron, and says, I'll put your house in order. And to me that metaphor of putting the house in order was offered to us from another teacher, who said there's a point and there's a place that we can choose to come in and knock over the tables of the money lenders and say, I'm putting this house in order. And the money lenders seem to be wearing different masks and different suits, but they still seem to be lending money and keeping people in a process of doubt and self-confusion almost, based around a financial model that's an illusion. That's what plants are teaching me. And they're saying simply, return to nature. Return to nature. Return to nature.
It's funny, isn't it? And a lot of people are quite critical of it, or scared of it.
Yeah.
But they'll drink a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or eat cacao and stuff, and it's like that's also it's also plant medicine. It's a much more domestic form of plant medicine.
So like almost like the wild edges, the kind of the master plants that we'd call in, and we'd say that sort of in terms of master plants, you have iboga, you have which is amazing, like a substance to combat addiction, and what I'd like to offer there is that there's a harmonizing and a relating of some deep wounding that occurs pretty much in every experience that I've shared with other human beings. I've seen some kind of lifting, some kind of taking out of the poison, some kind of self-reflection, that there is a process going on inside the body that the plant can inform. So the plant informs that as a teacher, so it's a teacher plant. But then there's master teacher plants, just as there's a supporting cast of specific teachers. So the specifics are like the lighter realms, the more subtle palettes of when we look at things that we do plant ourselves that don't have Angelica, Artemisia, Vervain, is that they have this like all heal, they have a name like all heal because someone just put me onto something called moringa. Oh yeah, it's from moister climates, I think around India, 300 different kind of health properties. I'm like, can you grow it here? Oh yeah, that's great. So to put those things into our own land is like, there's also a piece about how a plant then will inform you or I to be in the deepest relationship with it, maybe by nurturing it with our own body. So we take a seed and we place it underneath our tongue. We put it into our body and we gestate it. We give it the first saliva, the first warmth, the beginnings of its body, and then we place it in the earth.
That's beautiful. Right.
So then you have this piece that I'm bonded, I'm related to you. Like I'm part of your mama because mama's part of my mama and your mama's part of, and all of mama's related, rather than one pop, it cracks open, and then the plant receives my loving attention. Because I don't want to call it my child, I want to call it sort of what it is. My teacher has emerged.
Yeah.
Oh, welcome. So now we're going to drink tea. We're going to drink mint tea. And if we can be open to the subtleties of that, that's nice. And what I would also offer is if we took plant medicine, as in like a master plant, and worked at the same time with another smaller plant, then those two things are going to really inform one another.
Yeah.
The master plant is going to open up our conscious, heart-centered capacity to relate. And the smaller plant's going to come in and say, this is what I teach. Sit yourself down, come into my class space, and I'm going to provide you with pen and pencil, and you're going to be able to make some notes, draw some pictures, get yourself in relationship with this, because guess what? You're then, with your compassion, is going to want to say, when my child stumbles and cuts open their knee, I'm going to take that plant and chew it in my mouth, and I'm going to stick it on their knee, and my child's going to go, that's amazing. and they're going to be inspired.
Yeah.
And when they're inspired in the human experience, it passes on and on and on and on and on and on.
It becomes an inquisition.
Curiosity starts to come from it.
And a gentle shift to another form of medicine.
Yeah.
You do laughter yoga.
Oh,
you
yeah.
teach laughter yoga,
Yeah.
and humour's come up in this conversation a lot.
Not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you do have any laughter yoga things that you want anybody to do, it's been we're doing that up at Canaan Downs for the Coalesce Festival, and I've been asked, and it was funny because I let it go. It was one of these things I've talked to you about before. When you let it go, sometimes it comes.
Yep.
It comes back, and age
Remember
and
me?
entropy. Yeah. And somebody did remember me, and it was Rita and Jules, and they said, "Hey, we'd actually like to just get you to do the laughter yoga because that really works." Because I wanted to do a mythological workshop session where I was going to be like a Thai, going to have a clipboard, and I was going to have the cap. That's right, and they would say, "Oh, look, here's the mythological guy," and Rita and Jules said, No. Get people laughing.
Yeah.
It's basic.
Phenomenal medicine.
And really healthy. So I had a massively cathartic experience, a heart-based cathartic experience with Jamie Schick in 2006 up in Piranha Festival site. But he hired the site. So it was just us. It was about 20 something practice. It was quite intimate, maybe 15 or something. And to start off with, we had like a dress-up party, and that was how we met each other. So we had costumes and masks, and we banged silly things, and we made a silly music kind of festival thing, and we had a fashion show with all of our costumes on, and we had to kind of like evoke the catwalk vibe, and that was before we started the thing. And then he got us to hold hands and say, look each other in the eyes, and he said, all laughter's welcome. So let's do this. And he took us on a really beautiful layered approach with some sitting yoga, and also with a practice that was, I'm trying to remember the originator, an Indian doctor who suggested to his wife that they go out and they do some laughing in the park, and they just try and grab some people to...
So, slight technical problem. Battery died, so we're going to start just with this one camera, if that's all good with you.
It's a shocking calamity.
It was fully charged. It's just such a great conversation, so I'm happy just to let it run and run and run. Laughter yoga.
And the doctor who held a space in a park in India, and it's his preamble, and that was the founding moment where then laughter yoga became a community-based approach to wellness that didn't really have that much to do with yoga, but yoga is like a term in India, as I see it, as a practice. It doesn't mean to stretch your body into something. It's about continual diligent practice, and so he was sort of saying that this is the yoga of laughter. Let's call it the yoga of laughter. And I got a chance to on that experience to laugh until I cried. And I think there's a piece of my childhood which is really centered in that. So laugh until you cry until you laugh until you cry until you laugh, because we were allowed to begin with fake laughter, and I put that in rabbit ears. It's my own parenthesis. Ha 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 ha, the mundane laugh, the kind of sadly cynical laugh, ha ha ha, the laugh of like, huh, and then suddenly somebody else, like a laugh in the group of us would have instigated and related, and because it was there, and we had some practices that were going on that were play based, that were like, oh, let's do lion laughter. Let's do penguin laughter. We'd invent them as we were going on. Custard pie laughing, great, splat, and it was play, and it was fun, and so it was really early on in this journey that he said, and then it's after about an hour, lie down, and feel your body, and just put your hands on your body and feel where the laughter's going, where the energy of that is, and then you maybe fall into laughter while you were lying down in the silence. It would trigger experiences, and often people went through really big journeys into broken pieces of where laughter had not been allowed.
Yeah,
that's not a real laugh, my sister would say to me. It's like 6 years old. That's not a real laugh, Ian. Stop that. Oof. And like, it felt real. It felt like it was a genuine thing, and so that part of me started to accept there was a whole bunch of really well curated approaches to laughing. Hey, so how about if I start to take them back off the shelf again, and just to kind of somatically allow my body to be related again to those vibrations, and the palette just way opened. 2 days of this. I mean, literally, we laughed 6 hours, 7 hours of solid laughing each day, and it was like, and we had really hearty food, and you would think that was a real challenge, and some moments of it were, but it was amazing how quickly the body kind of came back in and was recharged.
Yeah.
And in this experience, it was like, this is a perfect tool, and we were being offered it as a tool, and I said, okay, I'll go and do like a 2-day retreat, which offers me the chance to hold spaces for other people in a safe way. So I became what was known as a laughter trainer, a certified laughter yoga trainer, which is a clit. And I said, hey, I've been looking for a clit for and now I found it, and I'm it. Hey, I'm a clit. And so I got to laugh out of that. Got to recycle it. And then I brought that into classrooms and class spaces, and I saw that at about 13 years old, 12 years old, there's a lot of resistance to laughing because your voice is changing. You may sound like a donkey when you laugh. Yeah. So I had a friend who I used to mimic his laugh because it was so like odd and quirky, and I still to this day I still laugh like him every now and then, and then I realize the wind changes and you stick like that. Yeah. so this is a continual piece of laughing, and that again was a piece that I went and did the laughter teachers course, which now I can train laughter yoga trainers. So I can make or bring about, or when I say I can facilitate. So I'd hold a space, and I'm really interested to try and do that in a Buddhist perspective, because I think that there's something so jovial about a mutual friend or mutual teacher, Geshe-la, who holds this beautiful childlike laughter in the Buddha. And this is like a primary state of consciousness, which is that kind of like figure of the Buddha, with laughter and the Dharma Buddha, bald, big tummy, just like letting it go. And of course,
there's so much humor in Buddhism, and there's so much humor in enlightenment and in the search for enlightenment. And every time I hear Geshe-la laugh, a light goes on. It's holding life so lightly.
Transmission of something of light.
The laughter of a monk is just phenomenal. It's one of the most potent things that I've.
And we touched on that concept of humor as well, and I think the Buddha is about humility too. So I think that they really have related and practiced and passed on that kind of nature of how it is to walk with humility. And when we're in a human state, a humble state, then humor is a natural kind of relation in it.
What's current for you?
Current is the sparrows in the baby sparrows in the space. Current's loving my littlest girl, little Rhea. She's emerging as this garden emerges, and it's seamless, so there's a beauty to it. It's like she's part of a tapestry of a garden, and I get full in that. So that's really like more please, because we're worth it. And I'd say that as a mantra: more please because we're worth it, more please because we're worth it, more please because we're worth it, because I think that that's a healthy space for all of us to share. So I bless the listener in a piece about being worthy and being worth it. That's really alive for me, is acknowledging self-worth and acknowledging that in the community. And it comes from a place that what's up for me is when I'm challenged, when my boundaries kind of edged, and I know that there's different voices, different people's pressures who have different a different human experience, and often the temptation is to encroach on another's boundaries, because that's how we find out who we are. Our soft and gentle skin is just, it's so fragile in between what we are in here and what we are out there. So yeah, the giver culture came up a lot for me, as opposed to the taking culture. And I see that the giving culture was that I'd like just return to that piece of the hunter-gatherer, and how as a whole culture, a whole, and I mean a full experience of deeply embedded in nature, so much so that they could see, as givers, they would return the skins of the animals that they didn't need or didn't use, or they would offer the first or the last one. And in some cultures of the bear culture particularly, the bear cult was one of the last bear that was hunted would be brought into the party, and they would hold a big pageant, and the bear would sit and watch and be, so they could that bear then could go back into the next incarnation and say, hey, I went to the party, it was great, they invited me, and all the other bears would say, well, I'm going to reincarnate on planet Earth because I want to get invited to the party next time. And in that, this kind of lovely piece about the giving. Yeah, so I bless that piece about where I am. I'm grateful for that. Yeah, grateful.
And for any sort of young, well, not just necessarily young people, old people, anybody who's been inspired by anything that you've talked about with regards wanting to follow those paths.
Yeah.
What sort of words of advice would you have?
Give me a call. Drop me an email, because I'd be like an open resource, an open book for conversation. Also, I'm keen to share stories and sources, particularly enthusiastic about that. There's some standards. There's some places to begin. There's a non-technological resource out there, and it's called Having Chats at Bus Stops. It's just getting curious and saying, hey, even just asking the question to somebody that you're just in a dialogue with, is like, heard any good stories recently? And that often gets met real fast. Oh, well, I know I have a story for you. I know a lot of good storytellers start with, I don't really have a story for you, but... And then suddenly you're kind of into somebody else's experience. And I think that really can inform and can support a young person who is interested, who's really curious, to just say, yeah, good jokes. Jokes were definitely the starting point for myself with being able to spin a beginning, a middle and an end, and some kind of conflict and some kind of resolution. Those things really came for me as a kid. So really polish up your jokes. It'd be a good space to go. I think that there's a lot of hoo-ha about some of the topics that we talked about. For example, plant medicines, or the specific thing that I'd like to talk to is, don't go running off willy-nilly and sort of taking my word for it. But I would offer that the laboratory of the human experience is your domain, and I mean that really sincerely. That a person can offer themselves absolute sovereignty, absolute responsibility, to listen to the voice that is coming back to them, saying, actually, this could be healthy for you, could do you some good, and then research like crazy. Get some good books, get some good podcasts, get some good listening, into, and you ask as many people who have experience in those realms as is possible. And it's about wellness and about the garden. Listen, not looking. Don't need to always behold. There's a lot of addiction in our culture of the visual, to see the visual field, to be engaged fully in something that is seen and therefore static. And we get static back from it, but there's also this image that it's flat, and we've got these flat screen things that are like in every sort of street corner and everybody's pocket. And also, sorry if you're looking at this on the screen, I don't mean anything by it, but there's also that piece about there's also that piece about when we listen, we can hear something and it comes through a different sensory way. And so I would offer to listen to the stories that the garden wants to tell you, or that nature wants to tell you.
On a practical sense, you said for people to email, or how would somebody email you? What would they use? What email address would they use?
We've got an email address in here someplace. Ian, IAN, all small, Kenneth, KENNETH, Brown, BROWN, @gmail.com.
Easy.
And so just address it like question or reaching out. First contact's good, because I do believe in the alien, and so like a first contact thing would be like a lovely kind of way. And don't expect like a quick turnaround, but I will get to it and I will relate to it. So that's something. If I've spoken to somebody today, that if I've touched somebody's curiosity or consciousness or life, and I hope I've come over in a kind of clear way for that. And that's what I wish. That's what I'd like to be here for.
And do you have any sort of closing words that you'd like to partake, or any?
I do.
Else you'd like to?
I got to share someplace. I got to share this. I won't go without it. I think this may be. Let's go. Okay. So this is a bit of fun. This one's called Transmission. Oh no! Let's leave it in this way instead. I got a poem called Humility. Okay. And we've talked about humility a little bit and how it's related to humble. Right? And I don't bang on about being humble. I don't need people to humble their asses all over the place and become doorman, become walked on.
It's the importance in being sincerely humble rather than. There's a lot of. I'm going to put on my humble coat now. So
it's interesting that you use that, because that comes up in the poem, The Coat. So let's just say this one. Humility. In the shadow of great hills, in this vast valley, time stretches to mirror mythology. Distance draws away, the iris pulls perspective. Standing amongst the landscape, you will find the self. The heartbeat is all echo. It will roll down, unfolding, as a river pebble, rippling around. Humility will meet you, greet you, welcome to you, welcome you in to your own human heart. Like an old friend, you will embrace. Humility will take your coat and hat and place them carefully on the hook behind the door, under the stairs, before returning to offer you tea. Humility will know self, know yourself, revealing corners of mystery patiently, presently, with steadfast perseverance. Humility will bring circles into your now. Circles of connection, circles of soul, circles of the infinite. Humility will catch your concerns and your cares. Will trade them for humor and hope. All the while making you feel grand in the humblest of dwellings.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Ian. Laughing dog, standing bear, talking bear.
Yeah, because I can't talk. Did you notice?
We've killed 3 batteries nearly, which has been really worth it. So thank you so much for your time and your knowledge and your sharing, your open-hearted sharing. It's been beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I hope that people listening and watching get as much value as I have. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Go well with this process and with this project.
It's a